We're going to keep things moving here on Boxtorow. We're joined by a gentleman in his third season as the head men's basketball coach at Morehouse. The Maroon Tigers, 13-3 in conference play. As a matter of fact, sit atop the SIAC by an advantage of one game in the win column, and going to be hosting Edward Waters at home. Doug Whittler, again, the head men's basketball coach at Morehouse, joining us here on Boxtorow. What's going on, Coach Whittler?
Hey, what's going on? How you doing today, Don?
I'm doing great, man. Your thoughts? I mean, you're 23 games in. You're 16-7, as I mentioned, one game above Clark Atlanta in the win column in terms of being in first place in the SIAC at 13-3. Your thoughts on the way your team has performed so far this season?
It's been an up and down season, even though we've won more than we lost. Early on, it took us a while to get things together, and I just kind of knew that having a whole new team, not whole new, but predominantly we brought like 7 guys in that were new. I got 2 freshmen who both actually starting playing good basketball for us, and we brought a few transfers in that we felt could help the program. And, coming in when we started out camp and everything, we had turnover problems. And so early in some of the early games, I knew that would be a problem for us. And I knew if we can get that situation, we could play a little better brand of basketball. And so we lost a lot of games earlier that I did not expect to lose, but I knew it was going to be tough. But once we turned around the turnover situation, we kind of got things kind of in control. And so, we're overall right now, I think we're like 16-7, but it's 4 games that I know I can touch on that I feel like that we really shouldn't have lost those games. But, that's just how the game is sometime. And, right now coming down the stretch, we're playing a pretty solid brand of basketball. We're getting key stops. And, the biggest thing is that we're limiting guys to only one shot. And making sure that we get the rebounds and, making our free throws when they count. So, we do those things. I tell our guys that I like our chances to win. If we don't turn the ball over, make our free throws, limit teams to one shot, making sure that we box out and rebound, and then just try to execute on the offensive end the best that we can. And I pretty much like our chances in the outcomes of the game.
And you've won 4 straight games. I got to ask you about this. It's weird, right? Like in the last 11 days, you played 4 games. You started off with Fort Valley State, then back-to-back games against Albany State, and then your last game was against Fort Valley. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, so the conference, they've done that maybe like the last 3 years. This is like the 3rd year. And so once we get to this point, they kind of matches up with, because you kind of have like travel partners, and so they matched us up against Albany State and Fort Valley, and then you'll play them within 2 days. You'll play one on say Thursday, and then the other on a Saturday, or Saturday and a Monday, and then they'll give you like 3 days to do a turnaround to come back and play those same teams. And so whichever one you played last on that stretch, you play first, then you get 1 day in between before you play the next. And so they've kind of done that the last 3 years. So it's a lot of familiarity with those teams that you playing because you just played them. But, it's exciting. The kids love to play. We're playing a lot of games, man, really quick. And so, just the turnaround and preparation time is real limited. But like I said, we've been doing a good job with watching film with our guys, and they've been doing a good job with executing when it's time to win the games.
2 historic programs, well, I say programs, but schools, and 2 of the more important schools in the history of all of our schools are important. But when you think about Howard, you think about Morehouse. I mean, brand-wise, I'm not sure it gets much bigger than that, particularly from a historic perspective. So you all were able to play Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday in Washington, D.C. You fall by 6 points in that game. A, speak to how your team played, and B, what it meant playing in that game against Howard.
Well, that was always an honor. We've been trying to get a game against Howard for a long time, and we finally made it happen last year. on King's birthday, which is big time because we go out there and we actually get with the DC alumni chapter. We actually go out to the King Monument and they have like a little ceremony and everything. So we do that. So it's a good opportunity for us and our players to meet up with some alumni across the nation. But just the game itself is very electric. That's a high intense environment when we come to town to play those guys. You know, coach is doing a really good job over there with that group. And so we just be kind of honored to go out there and play. But as far as how we played, you know, the kids that I recruited, I felt could play it somewhere at a Division I level. And so, you know, I know that we can compete with those guys. We just didn't make certain plays down the stretch that actually could have helped us win that game. We were in it pretty much the whole way. It was like a 1-point game within the last 2 minutes. And then we missed some shots and having a foul and them making free throws is what kind of stretched it out to a 6-point game. But, you know, I've been extremely proud of the way my guys have just reacted and the way they answered the challenge in the huddles when things is looking kind of slim for us. You know, that we're always in the game just because of the fight that the guys put on. And so I just appreciate them and all their efforts.
Doug Whittler, in his third season as the head men's basketball coach at Morehouse, joins us here on Boxtorow. I mean, you've got some guys. I mean, as I look here, I mean, you've got pretty balanced scoring. You know, it's led by Cedric Taylor III, who's averaging 11.7 points per game for you. Just speak to, you mentioned having a bunch of new guys. So can you speak to how this team has sort of meshed? And again, you've got balanced scoring within your group.
Well, so I think we play about 9 guys consistently, and we've had 8 out of the 9 leaders in scoring in a game. And so we know that the score can come from anywhere. This is just a very unselfish group of guys who just they stick to the program, stick to the plan. And on any night, it could be anybody's night. So we never really know who's going to be the leading scorer. I think Sid is the 3rd person so far to be at the top of leading us in scoring for the season. It was Keyshawn Peggis at one time, Damian Mitchell at another time, Jaden Gray at another time, and now with Cedric Taylor. He's a true freshman, young freshman too. The kid was 17 when he came into Morehouse. He's 18 now, but he's been playing tremendous basketball for us, defensively, offensively, rebounding, you know, being able to hit his shot. Got to get him a little better on the free throw line more consistently, but he's doing a heck of a job. And this is a very fun team for me to coach. You know, I pretty much recruited all these guys with the exception of one. My assistant coach, Harold Clay, recruited him. But, you know, it was just good to, you know, get a group of kids, man, who just listen to you and believe in the process and trust the process and fall in love with it. I think they begun to fall in love with the process. And that's one thing that Coach Brewer used to tell us and teach us when I was a player and when I was an assistant coach up. And he said, you say, Whit, you got to trust the process and fall in love with the process. And I have, and I've been trying to translate that to my guys, and they've been coming through with the process.
You mentioned Coach Brewer. Grady Brewer passed away back in 2021. Had a chance to have him on this program a couple of times. Morehouse has had good programs. You were part not only as a player with the program, but also as an assistant coach before you took over after his passing. Speak about him, who he meant to you.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't even have all the words that can explain that. Coach Brewer did so much for me, first just allowing me to be a part of the program as a student athlete, coming from where I was coming from. And he helped me when I was in a down situation, and he mentored me well. I came back to school. I remember when my eligibility was up, and I called him and I told him, Coach, I'm going to come back to school to get my degree. And he was like, all right, we're going to see. We're going to be here. And so I'll never forget because I pulled up to the school, and at the time I had a lot of hair. And Coach Brewer used to want us to, you can have an afro, but you better comb it, or you got to have, I ain't dealing with no braids, and I ain't dealing with all of that. That's how it was at the time. And I had braids, but I cut it because I knew I was coming back and I wanted to work with Coach Brewer. And so I came back, cut my hair, I walked in the office and he just kind of lit up, like he was kind of surprised and shocked to see me. But I came back and I asked him then if I could help him out with the team while I finished my degree. That was back in '09. I actually graduated in 2011, and he allowed me to do that. And once I graduated, he kept me on staff and hired me. And I was so happy and just grateful and thankful that I was able to pursue my goals and my dreams because when I was coming up as a young boy in Detroit, the only dream I ever really had was to be a PE teacher, be a basketball coach. That was it. And I've been blessed to have been able to skip middle school, high school basketball and jump right into college. And that's all just through the greatness and the heart of Coach Brewer. He trusted me. We did a lot together. We had some very good seasons. I worked extremely hard for him. I really wanted to try to win him an SIC conference tournament, and we were never able to get it. We got to the championship a couple times, but we're never able to pull it out. And so I miss him tremendously. I got him up here on my wall. He looking at me, smiling. Sometimes he's laughing. I look at that picture and I think he's laughing at me with some of the stuff that he told me I was going to be going through with this job. But he was just not only a great coach, but a great person and a great man. And I love him so much. And I just really appreciate him giving me the opportunity that he did.
Coach Whittler, I got about 30 seconds. If you can tell us your thoughts on Edward Waters, some of the challenges that the Tigers present your next game on Saturday.
That's a good team. Well coached. They're in shape. They're going to full court press you. They're going to trap you. We got to be ready to come and play that game. And so, I think we'll have the guys prepared because they did edge us out by one down there in Jacksonville. But, they're coming to Atlanta now, and, we'll be prepared to hopefully come out there and win that game. So very good team that I was just sitting in here watching film on. And once we get off this show, I'm going to put that film back on and make sure we do what we got to do.
Absolutely. Douglas Whittler, again in his third season as the head men's basketball coach at Morehouse, joining us here on Boxtorow. Again, you look at the Maroon Tigers sit atop the SIAC standings and a home tilt or home bout against Edward Waters on Saturday. Coach Whittler, really appreciate the time. Continued success to you and the Maroon Tigers.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate you as well.